In the darkest corners of our existence, where reality merges with nightmares, some stories are too extraordinary to ignore. Tonight, we explore one such tale. A journey through a personal hell where every shadow hides a deeper fear, and every step is a battle against the darkest parts of the soul. A voice boomed through the fog. "Do you know where you are?" My mind raced, and the only answer I could come up with was, "Hell." The voice responded with a maniacal laugh, and I ran into the unknown. Adam's near-death experience from over 2 decades ago remains vivid and impactful. It all began with a phone call from his best friend. Diagnosed with leukemia, his friend needed to go to Seattle for treatment and required 2 caregivers. Without hesitation, Adam agreed to help. Adam found a place near the hospital, and they settled in for what was supposed to be a 2 or 3 month stay. But things didn't go as planned. What started as a short-term arrangement turned into 8 or 9 months filled with ups and downs, hopes, and despair. Sadly, his friend, only 53 years old, passed away. The loss left Adam devastated, physically, emotionally, and spiritually shattered. Shortly after, a severe flu swept through the area. Adam caught it and had to be rushed to a clinic by a friend. They struggled to find his pulse and quickly transported him to the hospital. There, he developed pneumonia, which quickly turned into ARDS, acute respiratory distress syndrome, or lung failure. Doctors gave him a grim prognosis, a 38% chance of survival. They decided to put him in a drug-induced coma to give him the best chance. Just before he was sedated, the doctor's words echoed in his mind. "I'm giving you a drug that will make you forget everything. Your brain will be offline, and you'll just slip into a deep sleep." But instead of a deep sleep, Adam woke up in complete darkness. There was no sound, no sense of place, just confusion. Gradually, a reddish glow began to appear, but the light didn't get any brighter. A swirling fog surrounded him, and the air grew thick with a terrible smell. In the distance, eerie shrieks and screams filled the air. "This can't be good," he thought. At that moment, the voice returned, booming through the fog. "Do you know where you are?" The realization hit him. Hell! The voice laughed maniacally, and Adam ran off into the darkness. Bright lights suddenly illuminated a desolate cityscape. Tall buildings loomed, many of them crumbling, windows shattered. Fires raged, and the air was filled with chaos. Screams, scraping metal, and distant explosions. "Where am I?" Adam wondered, desperately seeking shelter. Unsettling things began to happen. A large shadow moved past, accompanied by a scraping sound. Maybe it's aliens, Adam thought, grasping for explanations. A group of ragged survivors emerged from the darkness. They seemed to be leading him somewhere, but their intentions were unclear. Adam followed cautiously, hoping they would offer safety or answers. When he tried to climb a concrete fence for a better view, he fell, and everything went black. When the lights came back on, Adam found himself in a new, unsettling environment. A large, hairy figure loomed before him, clearly a demon. It stared at him with a presence both terrifying and oddly familiar. "Do you want to get out of here?" it asked in perfect English. "Yes, I do," Adam replied, desperate to escape. The demon offered a deal. "I have a job for you. Complete it, and I'll make sure you get out." With a wave of its arm, the demon revealed a vast field of blackberry vines, towering 6 to 10 feet high and tangled together. Adam, familiar with these tough plants from Washington, knew the task would be huge. "You just need to cut all this down," the demon said, "and I'll ensure you get out." To Adam's surprise, the demon handed him a pair of tiny paper-cutting scissors, the kind given to children. The demon laughed heartily as Adam swatted the scissors away and began to cut at the thick vines. After a lot of effort, he managed to cut through one vine, but as he turned to discard it, the vine instantly grew back. The demon roared with laughter, finding Adam's struggle amusing. As Adam continued to cut, he realized that the vines were more than just obstacles. They symbolized his unresolved grief and inner struggles. Each cut was a step toward facing his own pain, making the task not just a physical challenge, but a deeply emotional journey. Adam said, "I didn't give up." I thought to myself, he's telling me to surrender because I'll never escape. He wants me to despair and save myself the trouble. But I was determined. I said, "No, I'm getting out of here." Adam resumed cutting. The lights went out. When they came back on, he found himself in an entirely new setting, a stark white hospital. "This is strange," he thought. Everything was white, floors, walls, ceilings, with bright lights everywhere. There were doors on either side of him. Doors are good, he thought. But then he noticed another demon at the end of the hall. They all seemed to carry menacing sticks or truncheons. Adam had to choose a door quickly. He glanced left and right, but the demon was fast, closing in on him. He stopped, hoping to avoid aggravating it, and waited for it to speak. The demon said, "Okay, you've got a new task." Adam thought, "Great." The demon continued, "Go into that room over there, take what they give you, and then come across the hall, into the door on the left, and put the item down." Adam thought, "If I go into this room, I might find another way out or someone who can help." He agreed and entered the room. It was large, filled with gurneys, and had people seated by each gurney. "This looks like a doctor's office or operating room," he noted. One of the doctors raised his hand covered in blood. Adam stared in shock. The doctor turned and said, "Get over here." Adam approached. The doctor took something from a woman on one of the gurneys. It was bloody and awful. The doctor put it into Adam's arms and said, "Get going." Adam looked down and realized, "Oh Lord, I know what this is." He carried the item into the hall. The demon pointed to the other side. Adam, still in shock, went over there. When he entered the next room, he was horrified to find it as large as a Costco, filled with piles of what he had been carrying. He put the item down on the floor and returned to the hallway. The demon said, "Back you go. This is your job." Adam replied, "No, I'm not doing that. It's disgusting, awful, and immoral. I won't do it." The demon said, "You have no idea what you're bringing on yourself now," and raised its club as if to strike him. Adam closed his eyes. The lights went out. When they came back on, this cycle repeated many times. Often Adam found himself on a dim, endless road. It was a dirt road stretching left and right, with no clear horizon, just an eternal glow, like a forest fire, with no stars or moon, just dusk. The road was monotonous. Adam thought, "Maybe I'll take a right and see where it leads. Maybe it will get me out of here." He encountered rocks and holes, but found the journey very dull. Time seemed to stand still. There was no way to measure its passage. It was always now. At one point he wondered, maybe this is a treadmill, a huge treadmill. No matter how far I walk, I don't get anywhere. Then suddenly the lights would go out and come back on. Despite the bleakness, Adam did encounter living people, which is rare in near-death experiences. He met a woman named Emily, who is now writing a book about these phenomena. One day, as he was walking, he smelled something delicious and quickened his pace. Ahead, he saw a man sitting in a chair and a woman arranging tables loaded with food and delicacies, like a grand banquet. When Adam looked at the woman, he realized, "Oh my gosh, that's a close relative of mine." As he approached, the woman looked up, recognizing him. She spoke in a comforting tone, explaining that she had been waiting for him. The food and the task were part of a test, revealing more about his journey and offering a potential way out. The test was not just a challenge, but a way to confront and understand his inner struggles. The woman's presence hinted at a deeper connection to Adam's past, suggesting that his trials were linked to unresolved issues he needed to face to move forward. With this realization, the road seemed less monotonous. Adam understood that his journey was not just about physical endurance, but also about introspection and acceptance. Determined, he prepared to face whatever lay ahead, knowing each encounter was a step closer to his eventual escape. Adam. We were very close friends, and I thought, what a stroke of luck. I was beginning to accept this as my new reality. I approached her and said, "I know you're busy, but could you please fix me a small plate of anything and a glass of water? I'll be out of your way." She looked at me, clearly confused, and then coldly replied, "This is for the important people." Her response stung, and I felt a sharp pang of humiliation. I mumbled an apology and continued on my way. As I walked down the road, I was somewhat relieved to be in a place that felt safer compared to the others I had encountered. But soon, things took a dark turn. I saw a group of people milling around, their movements slow and ragged. They were limping, muttering to themselves, and dressed in tattered rags. They kept crossing my path, and I felt increasingly uneasy. To avoid drawing attention, I tried to blend in. I slowed my pace, mimicked their limp, and muttered quietly. Just as I thought I might pass unnoticed, the group suddenly froze. The women, their faces mostly hidden by dirty shawls, stepped aside, while the men moved closer. One man approached me, his eyes cold and threatening. He struck me hard in the chest, sending me sprawling to the ground. Another kicked me, and soon the others joined in. It was a brutal and horrifying experience, and I felt completely powerless. As the attackers began to back off, one man leaned in close, his breath rancid. "We all have AIDS now, and so do you. You can't die. You'll just get sicker and worse until you become like us." A piece of his cheek fell away as he spoke, making the situation even more terrifying. A demon woman then arrived. The attackers stepped back, and she said, "Come with me. You're one of us now." I gathered my tattered rags and followed her. We joined a line of about 10 or 12 other women in similar, ragged clothing. As we reached the edge of a snowy landscape, I saw an endless expanse of snow-covered tundra. The wind howled, and snowflakes swirled around us, making the cold even more unbearable. The demon woman led us through the blizzard. Time seemed to stretch endlessly as we trudged through the snow. After what felt like an eternity, we finally arrived at a rundown shack. We entered, hoping for some relief from the freezing storm. Inside, we huddled together in an attempt to stay warm, but the shack was poorly insulated. Broken windows let in the biting cold, and we shivered on the floor. The demon woman announced, "Now we wait for customers." The bleakness of our situation hit me hard. I asked her, "Why does it seem especially grim right now? I've been through so much already. Am I just exhausted?" She replied, "Oh no, it's Christmas on Earth. That's always the worst day in hell." Christmas? I was stunned and confused. In my frustration, I started singing a Christmas carol, Away in a Manger, thinking it might provoke her. As I sang, she turned around, clearly enraged. "Shut up!" she screamed. A few of the other women managed to smile at my defiance, but the demon woman's fury was palpable. Despite her anger, I continued singing, "No crib for his bed." She lunged at me, and I closed my eyes. When I opened them again, I was met with a brilliant, blissful light. It was filled with an overwhelming sense of joy and love, a feeling far beyond anything I had ever experienced on Earth. The pain and fear of the previous moments melted away as I was enveloped in this extraordinary peace. Certainly, here's the expanded and rephrased version, keeping it engaging and easy to understand, while ensuring the original content and message remain intact. As the warm light gently dimmed, it began to take shape. It looked almost like a cathedral, but with no pictures, just pure white marble. I glanced up and was stunned to see my friend who had passed away last month. He had been battling leukemia, his hair lost, his skin blotchy, but now he looked vibrant and youthful, around 35 years old. I thought, that's odd. He doesn't seem to realize he's dead. He was laughing, and I was tempted to tell him, but something held me back. I figured if he's here, then this must be heaven, and I must be here too. So I said, "Why are we just standing around?" Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a large architect's table with an open book. I thought he might show me something in it, but I couldn't remember what it was. I said, "Let's go explore." But then he said, "Jesse, you have too much left to do." I was taken aback. "You're sending me back?" I crossed my arms, stamping my foot in frustration. "No, I'm not going." I was furious. He just smiled, and suddenly, everything went black. When the lights came back, they were harsh. I found myself in a place where I couldn't move or speak. Figures milled around me. Panic surged as one person turned, and I realized I was back in that dreadful place. "Mom's back," they said. Sarah, my daughter, came over and sat down beside me. "Oh, Mom, you were so sick, we thought we'd lost you. But you're back now." Julia, my mother, added, "We sent a prayer circle around the world and brought you back." I was overwhelmed with frustration. I couldn't express my anger. I couldn't even move or breathe. I weighed just 86 pounds, with no muscle mass left. I'd spent 3 weeks in the ICU and another week in recovery before being moved to a rehabilitation hospital. There, I had to relearn basic functions like crawling, walking, and even swallowing. It was like being an infant again, and it was incredibly depressing. Thankfully, my family was there for support. I had been dating someone, and he proposed to me in the hospital. The doctors had said I could either live with my parents or go to a convalescent hospital, but he insisted I wouldn't go to either. His kindness was a beacon of hope. He moved me into his home, and I began a long recovery. It took almost a year to regain most of my abilities. Yet, the haunting memories lingered. I was terrified of going to sleep, afraid that the demons would return. I couldn't understand how I had ended up in such a nightmarish place. My upbringing as a Catholic had taught me that only the very good went straight to heaven. The rest of us went to purgatory, which was like hell but with a chance of escape. I had done many good deeds, said extra prayers and attended Mass, but it seemed it wasn't enough. I wondered if I had made some grave error. It took a decade and a series of serendipitous events before I found the International Association for Near-Death Studies, IANS. There, I discovered others who had experienced similar phenomena, which helped me make sense of what I had gone through. For more insights and stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to be a part of us, like the videos, and leave a comment. Your support helps us explore these fascinating events together.